Hey guys, it's Tara here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all things USMLE and the board, so stay tuned. So first of all, what is the USMLE? The USMLE stands for the United States Medical Licensing Exam, or USMLE, and it's an exam that all students who want to do residency in the United States have to take. As you guys may know, I'm Canadian. See Canadian flag in the corner? At the moment, my plan is to take both sets of exams, so I leave my options open between the United States and Canada because it's really competitive to get into residency, so having kind of my eggs in both baskets is helpful. So this video is kind of all about what I'm doing right now for the USMLE. I'm probably going to do more videos about this. So the USMLE is broken up into a series of exams that medical students and residents have to take over a couple of years. So right now I'm preparing for the USMLE Step 1. But next year I'll do the USMLE Step 2, which is broken down into two parts, the USMLE Step 2CK and USMLE Step 2CS. And then once students are in residency, that's when they generally take Step 3, but that's like a little bit too far away for me to be thinking about that right now. Right now my brain is all consumed by this exam, the USMLE Step 1, or as everyone else in my class calls it, Step 1. There's kind of a set way that a lot of students study for this, and it's very different to how I studied last year for my lectures. As you may know, last year I used this big magical whiteboard that you see in the background a lot for my lectures, where I'd write everything down and kind of draw everything out and teach it to myself that way. That has not been so successful for my USMLE studying, so I'm studying completely differently to how I've ever studied for anything else before. So I've got a couple of different resources that I'm using, and I'm going to go over those right now. That might change as the exam kind of goes on, so let's kind of dive in. So right now I'm following the UFAS system. UFAS stands for UWorld, First Aid, Pathoma, and Sketchy. Some of these resources I've paid for, some of them have been given to me by the school, some of them I've kind of worked with friends and we've worked together to find them. So first I'm going to talk about is First Aid. It's this massive textbook. I have the 2019 copy because I wanted to start my study last year, but my boyfriend just got the 2020 copy because he was studying off of an older copy and then got his new one when 2020 came around. It's the 30th edition. His copy looks so beautiful, so pretty, but I am very, very happy with it. And basically it's just a book of facts of things you need to know for the USMLE. So, for example, this is what the pages look like. It's just distilled down to the most important things you need to know, which means that it doesn't quite have all of the information in there, which is why I use other resources and then heavily annotate this book, which is why you'll see notes and sticky notes all around the book, kind of indicating what I've picked up from different resources in other places. So that's the first thing I'm using, which is First Aid, and I'm annotating it with a system called Boards and Beyond, which are just a series of videos that I'm watching, usually at 1.5 speed, and just writing very, very fast so that I can get through as much as I can because there's a ton of material to get through for this exam. So getting through it quickly and efficiently is very important. I don't want to have to go over anything more than a couple of times, otherwise I'm just wasting my time and taking time away from other things that are also going to be on the exam. So the next part of the UFAS I'm going to talk about is Pathoma, and Pathoma was purchased for us by our school. RCSI provides us with a Pathoma subscription for the year that we're writing the USMLE. So that includes this text here, as well as a series of online videos by Dr. Sitar. I love listening to Dr. Sitar. I feel like he becomes my internal monologue when I'm doing practice questions for certain things. And I've heard that that's very similar for a lot of other students. When it comes to pathology, this is kind of the gold standard go-to for learning pathology for the USMLE. The next part of the UFAS I'm going to talk about is Sketchy, which is the S. So Sketchy is broken down into three sections: Sketchy Micro, Sketchy Micro, Sketchy Path, and Sketchy Pharm. I've been using Sketchy Micro and Sketchy Pharm, and basically that means that it's teaching me all of the microbiology and the pharmacology that I'll need for the USMLE. So it goes through things like, for pharmacology, antimicrobial drugs, diuretics, calcium channel blockers, different drugs for heart failure, different drugs for renal failure. And it'll go through and it'll say, oh, amphotericin B is an amphotericin B amphibian, so they're frogs. They put a frog in the picture, and the picture all tells a story. So with Sketchy Micro, it's teaching you microbiology by drawing a big picture, and anytime someone's immunocompromised, they might be holding a cane, or anytime you use a macrolide to treat this bacteria, You would have a macrolide crow. It's a really easy way to help you remember when you're just going through a picture and saying, oh yes, I remember that Haemophilus influenza is a gram-negative bacterium because the chocolate shop was pink. The chocolate shop is pink, so Haemophilus influenzae is a gram-negative bacterium. So it's a great way to study. I absolutely love it. And then we're gonna get to the U of UFAS, which is UWorld, which is the gold standard QBank or question bank that all of the medical students use for this exam. I haven't started using it yet. I'm holding off on it until I get to my more dedicated period of study. The school also provides us with a subscription to UWorld after we pass our diagnostic exam, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But for the moment, I'm using two other QBanks. One of them I purchased myself, and one of them was purchased for us by the school. So I'm gonna talk about the one I purchased first, which is USMLE Rx. So the same people that make this book make USMLE Rx, which means that there are some resources that they have online that are more available to us. They have some videos. I don't find that I use those quite as much. I used them a bit at the beginning, but now I'm leaning more towards boards and beyond. The flashcards are really handy because they correlate directly to the first aid material, so I find that I learn it faster. And then the question bank is really awesome, and it also breaks down kind of where you're struggling and how you're doing well, which is kind of a feature that all question banks have. The only thing that I find is that sometimes the questions are a little bit easier than I would expect them to be sometimes, which I would almost prefer them to be a little bit harder. So that brings me to the question bank that was purchased to us by the school, and that belongs to Amboss. And Amboss is another one of these kind of online question bank systems, and they also have flashcards and videos and learning cards, and I don't use any of that. I only use the QBank on Amboss, and I love it. I absolutely love it. My only complaint is that it goes way and far the other way. The questions are exceptionally difficult, which I would prefer because I'd prefer to get a bunch of really, really hard questions and have to think my way through them. But then it sacrifices some of the easier material that I might see on the exam in emphasis of the more difficult material. The last resource I'm using, which is not a part of the UFAS system, it's not a resource for learning the material, but it's a resource for planning out your time effectively. And because I'm so busy, I was having a hard time keeping up with all of the material and saying, okay, how am I gonna make sure that I get all of this material done if I have to cover all of it by June? What I did was I purchased a subscription to Cram Fighters. So I purchased a subscription to Cram Fighters, which is a scheduling system which helps you determine, okay, you need to do these videos today and this many questions and this many flashcards today in order to stay on track to finish all of the material by June. And then if you don't complete something, it goes into an overdue file, and then those things always get put, for me, I always try to do them immediately after I finish a whole day so that I can get back on track. Right now, I've got a couple of things that are overdue, but that's because of the diagnostic yesterday. I didn't do any studying yesterday, which means that I've got some things that I have to do today, but I always leave my Sundays free on Cram Fighter, which is really great. You can mark days as being free. I didn't know when my diagnostic would be, so I didn't put it in Cram Fighters, but I use my Sunday as my catch-up day so that I can get through all of the material, but also I don't feel stressed if, let's say, Monday we've got extra long lectures that day. And I can say, okay, well, I have time on the following Sunday and I'll be able to get it done. Those are all the resources I'm using for now. Now let's talk about the diagnostic. So the diagnostic is a test that RCSI has us write before we sit the actual exam. So I'm sitting the diagnostic in February and I won't write my actual exam until August, which means that I'll have a couple of months to study after the diagnostic. But we've only done about half of the material, a little less than half of the material for the exam now in class. We'll have covered most of it by the time June rolls around and we're all done with classes, but we still have to take this diagnostic exam, which has all of the material on it, and pass it, which is very, very stressful. I won't find out what my score is for probably another week or so, so we'll see how that goes. We'll see. It's very, very stressful for me. But the score that you get on the actual USMLE is a 3-digit score. 194 is a pass. Depending on your score, kind of depends what kind of residencies you can apply to. The higher your score, the more options you have. The lower your score, the fewer options you have. I'm aiming high, I'm studying as hard as I can, and seeing what happens. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video about the USMLE and about what I'm doing. I'm probably gonna do more of these videos as I kind of am progressing with my studying, I might do a couple of study with me's, which basically means that I'll set up my camera and I'll kind of take you through me studying for however long and see how that goes. If you like it, please click the like button, click subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications when I post new videos every single Sunday. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!